there, and welcome to the discussion of VetChat. I am Dr. Charlotte Stenberg. Today we're going to chat about bovine viral diarrhea. Firstly, I'd like to introduce to you a very special international guest, Dr. Zoe Winner. Welcome, Zoe.
Thank you, Dr. Stenberg. I'm honoured to be here with you this morning.
So, Dr. Winner, you've been invited to chat to us today about BVD. Can you please explain to our viewers what BVD is?
Gladly. Bovine viral diarrhea, or BVD, is a highly transmissible viral pathogen among cattle. Infection can cause clinical disease, production losses, decreased reproductive performance, and even death.
And how does BVD affect New Zealand?
In New Zealand, BVD does not discriminate between beef or dairy cattle. It is estimated that around 60% of New Zealand cattle beasts have been exposed to the virus. The losses are costing New Zealand farmers millions of dollars per annum. Being a nation dependent on farming income is a major player to the New Zealand economy. Losses such as this are unacceptable.
Very true. New Zealand farmers should be taking action to minimise these losses. We will touch on what farmers can do later in this segment. Here with us today is one of our clients, Miss Olivia Goad. Now, Miss Olivia, who owns several dairy farms, one of these we'll be investigating today. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate your help and advice.
As can be seen here, Miss Goad had her farm tested for BVD. Now, Olivia, what is it that you're wanting to get out of today? You know, your expectations and goals from today, from these results.
Well, my neighbour got positive BVD last year, so I thought I'd get a test for it. I'd like to know if my herd is infected with BVD, if it has an effect on my farm, and if there's anything I can do about it.
Okay, I now have Dr. Nicole Sims here with us. She will discuss and interpret these results for you. Dr. Sims, what can you tell us about this farm's BVD status?
From these results, I can tell that, unfortunately for this farm, there is overt evidence of an active BVD infection within the milking herd. There are results from two different types of BVD tests here, the bulk milk ELISA antibody test and the PCR test.
And what does the ELISA test show?
The ELISA test indicates the presence of antibodies in the sample. If the milk contains antibodies to BVD, I can confidently conclude that the herd has been exposed to BVD virus. In order for an animal to develop antibodies, there must have been previous exposure to the virus and enough time for the animal to respond.
What about the PCR test?
The PCR test screens for the sample for the presence of viral antigens. This means that the PCR can find that the viral particles are in the milk. This may mean that there are persistently infected animals who were exposed to the virus during gestation, or that the cows have just become infected.
And what do the results on my farm mean?
The PCR results from your bulk milk tank sample are negative, which means that there are no persistently infected animals in the milking herd. But I would recommend a repeat sample be taken to be sure that there are no PIs that were missed during sampling. The ELISA test results for this farm show that there is an active BVD infection that will need to be addressed.
And how much is this going to cost?
Well, Olivia, we need to carry out some further testings and cover persistently infected animals. Vaccination of the whole herd, including replacements, is the best way to protect the herd from further infection and breaks the cycle of virus transmission. Whilst this may sound like a lot of cost and expense and work, BVD causes a loss of over $11,000 per herd per year from decreased milk yield and culling of unproductive stock. If we rid the herd of infection, this will allow you to raise your milk yield and reproductive statistics.
Okay.
Now that we have established that this herd has a problem with BVD, I'd like to present options from where to go from here. Control and eradication of BVD from a herd can yield very profitable results for this farm and health benefits for the animals. Dr. Winner, can you please outline the control options to Olivia?
Yes, sure. A BVD positive herd in general will have decreased productivity when comparing to a BVD free herd. Once a herd is rid of BVD and persistently infected animals, also known as PIs, a farmer can expect to see a more robust herd with a return in productivity.
Why is there a decrease in farm production?
Well, you see, cows with BVD are immunocompromised and there will be increased incidence of other infections in the herd. such as mastitis or uterine infections. So there will be improved reproductive status in your cows without BVD. It should be easier to get cows in calf and keep them carrying through to calving in later seasons. What do you recommend for BVD control, Dr. Steenberg?
First, we can determine the source of shedding within the herd. As there are no persistently infected cows evident in the milking herd, we need to test other groups of animals that are present on the farm. For example, testing your bulls and calves for the presence of BVD antigen.
Well, how would you be able to determine the infected animals?
If this all sounds good to you, Olivia, we can do a pooled serum PCR antigen test as the next step. This involves blood testing all the animals that are not in the milking herd and grouping 10 to 20 animals into each pool. The PCR antigen test is very sensitive, so it can detect minimal amounts of virus. Therefore, if the pooled PCR is negative, it can be concluded that there is no cow infected within that group. However, if the pool is positive, we then need to individually test by antigen ELISA all the animals in the pool to find the PI.
Calves need to be tested when they're 35 days or older, due to maternal antibodies interfering with the test. Once all PIs have been found, unfortunately we need to cull them to prevent further shedding. These animals are the main source of infection to cows in the milking herd, as they shed the virus in very high concentrations. This is why the bulk milk sample had a very high.
To complete control, the herd needs to be vaccinated against BVD. This can be done as an initial 2 shots, then an annual vaccination before mating every year since. This vaccine is protective and will prevent BVD and the formation of PIs within your herd.
That's starting to sound really expensive.
I know it sounds expensive now, but the cost of culling PIs and vaccinating now outweighs the cost of further culling of unproductive animals and any other losses you may encounter due to BVD, such as abortions, neonatal deaths, weak calves, mastitis and other infections, and of course, reduced milk yield and having to buy in replacement animals. These effects of BVD alone induce many unnecessary costs, of which you, Olivia, can prevent.
Okay, all this advice you have given me is great. I'll talk to my manager and get back to you next week.
That's fine, Olivia. You have our recommendations, and hopefully you are able to use these recommendations to make the best decision. Now, that concludes our session for today. Thank you for watching VetChat. You are with Dr. Charlotte Stenberg. Join us next week for our discussion on parvovirus in dogs.
If you would like to get involved with this production, follow us on Facebook at VetChat Live, and remember to tune in next Tuesday, 7/9 Central.
So today on this session, we have learned 3 simple steps to ridding your herd of BVD. Remember, step 1, test. Step 2, cull. Step 3, vaccinate.